Donald Trump and tears on air. I don't really remember any other American president squeezing that many out of U.S. TV anchors by whatever he says or signs.
Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on.
I have Muslim friends who are texting me tonight saying, should I leave the country? I have families of immigrants that are terrified tonight.
His name was Private Emmanuel Mensah, and he immigrated from Ghana, a country Donald Trump apparently thinks produces very subpar immigrants. I don't know why the president doesn't know that.
If they loathe them so much for being inhumane and not giving a damn about people's suffering, the story of how and why the president called off the strike on Iran must have warmed at least a few hearts in those studios, at least a tiny bit.
They came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians. They said, came back, said, sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, and here we are sitting with 150 dead people, and I didn't like it.
Well, those who'd been painting Mr. Trump with, you know what kind of brush, didn't only fall short of shifting their attitude. Their impression was the usual. The president was failing the nation.
President Trump was being urged by outside advisors not to carry out the strikes. We don't know who they are or why he would share with them, people not in the chain of command or in his defense circle.
North Korea is watching. All our enemies are watching. Of course, Assad is watching, and for 7 weeks, nothing but provocations. There's a price to pay for inaction, and that says a lot.
All in all, this shows gross disorganization and a president who can't seem to make up his mind even on something as important as a military strike on Iran.
It was then the experts or columnists' turn. Here's a part of the piece that came out in The Atlantic magazine.
The president's reprehensible behavior makes it virtually impossible for him to bring the country together, convince it that war is necessary, and on the basis of that support, persuade America's allies to join the fight.
Not much of a surprise to hear that from a former Bush administration member whose job was to make sure NATO allies kept by Washington's side during the Iraq invasion, although that title doesn't get a mention on the page. Or here's how a CBS correspondent was leading into a thought by a former U.S. admiral and the channel's contributor.
If Iran shoots down another drone, military officers say they intend to be ready to retaliate much faster and with fewer estimated casualties. But the final go, no-go decision will still be up to the president.
We are in an interesting period of this crisis where it's possible the president has simply gone back to his military planners and asked for a better option that he might choose to execute anytime, now or at a later date.
Let me point out, though, that CBS doesn't say Mr. Winfield is on the board of directors of Raytheon, one of the world's largest arms producers. Over at NBC, one of their experts stated that
Trump is causing long-term damage to the credibility of America's commitment to its allies and regional security in this strategically vital part of the world.
Mr. O'Reilly is quoted as a former U.S. ambassador to Bahrain under Barack Obama, but perhaps it would have been worth mentioning another title of his, the Vice President of Mercury Consulting. One of the company's top clients is, guess who? The U.S. Department of Defense. So maybe that explains the massive gap in perception. A poor immigrant who's suffering at the hands of a racist president versus the lives of 150 Iranian soldiers. Special interests will probably always set things straight.
The media is filled with all kinds of government and industry-connected experts, so-called experts, who actually would benefit from war. And yes, the media is very happy to give them a platform because they all kind of benefit together from an international conflict. There are some sectors of the media that are astonishingly irresponsible and short-sighted when it comes to Middle East conflicts. They just believe in pouring in arms into the Middle East, into the Persian Gulf. They think nothing of engaging in a military conflict. It's extremely reckless and dangerous, and it's pushing the U.S. to the brink of war.